Great. Good. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another session of Dream to Impact. And I do Africs and Pluralist online skill acquisition program. This is our fourth week, and in the graduate school track, academic and graduate school track, our topic for the fourth week is academic writing essentials for graduate success. That's the theme for this class. So here we'll be teaching, the facilitator will be teaching the participants how to write like a scholar. So developing strong academic communication skills, right? So by the end of this week, right, so participants hopefully will be able to apply principles of academic writing and critical thinking. We'll be able to write coherent paragraphs with logical structures, um, and flow. We'll be able to develop strong arguments supported by credible evidence, and we'll be able to avoid plagiarism and apply appropriate referencing styles. Participants will also be able to improve grammar clarity and academic tone, and participants will be able to produce university standard academic assignments. So our facilitator for today's session is no other than Sunday Ganyu Anifowoshe, Babatunde Ganyu Anifowoshe. Yes, so he will be introducing himself now. The mic is being passed to you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Chibike, for the invite and to everyone that is here. I mean, can you hear me, Chibike? Am I clear?
Yes, you're clear, loud and clear. Yes.
All right, cool. So, again, my name is Ganil. I'm a psychology graduate, and I'm here to share what I've learned so far and what I have seen other experienced and other people that are in this field and superiors that I've been following so far. I've seen them try and do when it comes to academic writing. You see, academic writing can be defined clearly as this. Academic writing is clear thinking made visible for a reader in conversation with a field. So it's clear thinking that you made visible for a reader in a conversation with a field. So let's say you want to write something about maybe as little as dogs. There are two types of writing if you want to write about dogs. There is the essay type and there is the all made up writing are called essay. You have to write essay, but that's the background of writing essay. Because you have to convey what is going on in your mind. But when it comes to academic writing, there are rules to it. There are patterns to it. There are what you must do in the writing, and there is this there is this way you have to convey what you're trying to say from your mind. It's not about just writing. I have three dogs. I know a dog has four legs. I know a dog has four limbs. I know a dog opens their mouth and then they try to swear by panting. So that is just one part of writing. But when it comes to academic writing, every technique today about academic writing serves two masters at once. And one is clarity. So the reader can follow the thinking process. And number two is credibility. Number two is credibility. So the grammar, the structure, the evidence, and citations, they are not just separate boxes to tick that I have this writing that I want to write. I have this piece I want to write, and I'm just, making sure that the grammar is correct. I'm making sure the structure is right. Making sure the citations are there. I'm not just citing for anything. There is a reason why these things are there for you to do. So there are four ways of being clear and credible in your academic writing. You have to make sure the grammar is correct, the structure is correct, the evidence is right, and the citations are there. Because in academic writing, we don't believe that knowledge comes from perspectives or feelings. We want to think that knowledge comes from evidence. And how can you show that you are speaking in this language of conveying knowledge and evidences when you cite, when you provide citations? So you just make a claim. You have to make a claim. You can make a claim. You can make a claim, but you have to show that somebody else has proved your claim and you are carrying on in that thought process. That's what academic writing is. So, two questions at the ending of what I'm trying to say is you can write them up to two questions. So what? Why does this matter? Why are you writing this thing? And the second one is how do you know? What supports this? Is it any good? So those are the two questions you have to ask yourself. Why are you writing it? Why does this thing you're writing? Why does it matter? And what evidence supports what you're writing? Because when it's about academic writing, it's not just about writing based on imaginations, based on what you feel, based on what you think. There's another category of writing, called essays. Essays are just fully what you think, maybe academic essays. But when it comes to academic writing, when you're writing to convey to another person in a field about what you are doing or what you think, you have to make sure that they have these elements. So moving on.
Running around, boys.
So let me ask you a question. When two students hand in essays, they come in, they hand in their essays, maybe an assignment or a classwork or a term paper from their supervisor or lecturers, because I believe everybody here is undergraduate or graduate. So let's
Yes,
say they
that mix of students. We have mix of graduate majorly.
graduates and undergraduates. Okay. So two students hand in their essays and with the same fact and the same sources, they hand in their essays. One earns an A and the other one barely makes a C or a D. What makes the difference between these two people? What do you think is different when two people have written an essay about the same topic, they use the same facts and they use the same sources? And one clearly ends an A, and the other person ends maybe scripts like a C or a D. And anybody you can text it in the chat box, or you can say it if you want to speak with the mic. Anyone, what do you think is the difference between these two essays? I don't have any graphical illustration of the essays. Just imagine it that just imagine it that two people bring in two essays. Is there anybody speaking?
We are Ugu. I think Ugu is the one. But there's another.
Grace
Grace.
Adeto, you're distracting the class. Go on.
Hello, Grace.
I'm going to just she has muted herself.
Okay, so who wants to help us, put some thoughts into why you think one person earned an A and one person earned a. Anybody? Okay, nobody. All right, I'll just continue. So
No, today I
these are
said
the
so. I was speaking and my mic was muted. Sorry for distracting,
right.
right? There's something we do in our sessions, right, to make sure that the
Mm-hmm,
classes are engaging and students are
mm-hmm,
full, right? As a facilitator, you have the right to award student points, right, based on like you can award them points based on
right.
a response to questions, and you send it to
Mm-hmm.
us later. Also, you can just call people at random, right? It's an engaging class. Do you understand? You can go on. Yeah.
Right. So I'm seeing some responses already. Thank you. Chioma favors the question. The question is okay, I'll repeat the question. The question is that there are two students in a class. They have been given the same assignments. Maybe write about something from their lecturer, maybe an assignment about academic writing. When they wrote the essays, when they had the writing, they had the same fact, they had the same sources, and one earns an A. They use say two students copy each other, but they didn't copy directly, but they used the same resources for their essays. So one student gets an A, the other one gets like a C. What do you think is the difference between those two essays? Being logical and, what do you think is the difference? So, Martha said one may use the required citation style consistently and accurately, while the other may have incomplete, inconsistent, or incorrect citations. Thank you so much, Martha. But that's not only it, that is part of it. When I started, I mentioned four things that convey convey academic writing, right? I mentioned four things that convey academic writing. So it's not just about personal touch. Well, personal touch in academic writing is okay, okay. But let me just go over it again. There are four things that are very, very important in academic writing. Number one is grammar. Number two is structure. Number three is evidence. And number four is citation. So the reason why the other person probably did not get a good score is that he must have been lacking in all of these fields. Maybe the improvised citations, maybe the grammar was not well structured, maybe the grammar there were so many grammatical errors, maybe the evidences are not even true, maybe they are fabricated. When you try and write now and you put it in ChatGPT can start hallucinating for you and start giving you sources that are not even correct. So are possible reasons why this person did not get the required score. So moving on. So today we'll be working with multiple mental tools when approaching academic writing. There are 5 of them. So one of these is critical thinking. Critical thinking is not just about what you want to write. It's about what you already know. There's a thing because I have psychology background, psychology graduates. There's a thing in psychology where you can't give what you don't have. You want to write something about the topic and you don't know anything about the topic. I'm not sure you're going to do greatly writing about that said topic. So you have to first improve your own knowledge about the said topic. Before you write anything, you have to first do some knowledge acquisition. The lecturer gives you, say, people, I don't know if anybody is familiar with psychology. Say a lecturer gives you, write about the effects of what about the effects of doom scrolling on the mood of phone users? You might think that you know about doom scrolling. Doom scrolling means that you are just scrolling through Twitter or scrolling through TikTok or scrolling through Instagram, just running through it. That's just doom scrolling. You don't have any particular thing you're looking for. You're just there, sitting at the spot, rotting. I don't want to use rotting, but just there, just doom scrolling. You might have the basic conception of what doom scrolling means, but then, what do you really know about doom scrolling? What has been written on it before? What has been done regarding doom scrolling? Is there any evidences available on doom scrolling? Has it been researched before? Has it been done before? You have to first acquire knowledge before writing. Again, you can't give what you don't have. So whenever you're approaching any writing, any topic, anything that you want to convey your opinions about, you have to first learn about what has been done there. So that you don't go about just repeating what has been said or just speaking out of their ignorance. You don't want to do that. So you have to first find knowledge regarding this topic. Number 2 is that when actually writing, you have to build paragraphs that hold together. You have to ensure that your thoughts are being lined up like a chain. You don't just want to have multiple pieces hanging everywhere. You want to put them all in a chain. Let paragraph 1 be leading to paragraph 2. Let paragraph 2 be leading to paragraph 3. Let paragraph 3 be leading to paragraph 4. You want to paint a picture. You want to have a story. You want to ensure that your writing is following a trend, is following a line. You don't just want to have pieces in multiple places. Now, we're still going to talk about when to write and things like how you should write, or everybody has a style. You might not have discovered yours yet, but everyone has a style. I have my style. Chibuike has a style. We all have our style, our inner voices when that is conveyed in writing. And you have to find your style. You have to find your voice. It's not about just seeing something and just like somebody said earlier, personal touch. So personal touch is also very important. Are you the type that always try to make humor in your writing? Are you the type that uses witty writing? Are you the type that does poetic writing? Maybe you like to use a bit of poetry, flowery writing. Are you the type that does straight mechanistic writing? So in as much as we are saying we want to do academic writing, it's okay. It's okay to explore one style and convey how one feels in their writing. So the first one is thinking critically. For thinking critically, you have to first learn about the topic you're going to be writing about. You have to know what you're writing about. Second one is building paragraphs. You want to have an outline, a skeleton of what you want to write. You want to make sure that your writing is following a particular trend. You don't want to just have pieces lying everywhere, like I mentioned earlier. You want to ensure that your writing is linking together, it's making sense, it's following a trend. All right, the third one is argument. In writing, you have to provide argument. Arguments in this case is not arguing with, I mean, it's not like the regular argument you have with people, but you have to provide arguments. Arguments in the sense that you want to be able to convince the person that is reading what you're writing that what you think or what you are saying is there is a way for them to think about this particular topic. All right. So you have to provide right argument. And when you are arguing, argue with evidence. Again, going back to critical thinking phase, you have to argue with evidence and not assertion. Don't say that I know that doom scrolling will cause negative mental health in the lives of people that don't scroll. You don't want to accept. You don't want to just say that you know, I feel, I think. That is not the way academic writing is. With academic writing, you want to provide evidences. Somebody from this place has said that, and that is where citation comes in. Somebody from this place has said that with doom scrolling, this will happen. So that is how you convey your own argument through evidence, so that the person can see that you're not just saying things out of your own feelings. You're not just saying things unscientifically. All right. So the fourth one is citations. Like I mentioned earlier, after evidences, you have to cite properly and honestly. You have to ensure that your citations are correct. You don't just want to copy whatever ChatGPT gives you and just put it in your writing. I've seen that mess up a lot of people's writing when even bigger corporations have done this. I think who was this corporation? So one big consulting firm that did this one time ago. They were consulting for a particular. It was a national project and more done to them because they think that okay, fine, let's use this the initial stages of AI then. Let's use AI to write this thing, And they didn't check. They just provided the evidences like that and just give it. So just after when somebody was not checking and clicking the DOIs one after the other, they're seeing that it was linking them to another source, it was linking them to another page. So you have to confirm your citation, you have to confirm your evidences that they are correct when writing. And here's the thing me personally, I do when I'm about to write. When I'm about to write a topic, I arrange all of my arguments. After arranging all of my arguments, then say argument for and argument against. Arguments for and argument against. That's how I arrange mine. So when I say argument for and argument against, I now look for sources that backs up my arguments for, and look for sources that backs up my arguments against. So when I mean sources, I mean writings that I've been done before. You have to always, there's ideas don't just come to only you. I mean, there are people that have a particular, but ideas don't just come to only, ideas come to a lot of, so that goes as well with writing. When you're writing, what you're writing about is not you that has first thought about that thing you're writing about. Somebody must have done it. Or even if they've not done it, that's the gap you have to explore. So that will talk for another session, exploring gaps in knowledge. All right, so after you've cited, the fifth one you have to do is to revise clearly. You have to revise for clarity. That is the stage where you now share your writing with other people. Share your writing with people that are your friends, share your writing with people that are your mentors, and let them review for you. That's to review your writing because you want to see from another perspective what you are talking about, whether somebody else understands you from what you just put down. So you have to always revise for clarity. So by revising for clarity, you want to send your writing to people that are interested or that can help you see where your faults are, your flaws are in writing. So that is how we're going to be going on about writing, academic writing. So all right, so where are we? So I wanted to take one of the each one of the themes, one after the other. Say critical thinking first, and then I will move to paragraph architecture and so on. That's what I'm going to be doing now. Critical thinking. The single biggest weakness in graduate writing, academic writing, usually isn't about grammar. It is stopping at the description when the reader wants analysis and judgment. You want to write something. You do your grammar is very important here. Grammar is one of the core things you should look at for your writer. You don't want to be writing and be tabon everywhere. So you want to ensure that what you're writing is analytical and you are conveying enough judgment with what you're writing. So when it comes to critical analysis, critical thinking of writing, you have to first look at the description of what you want to write. What is the case? What are the reports? What are the findings? Summarize what you want to write. Then analysis is how and why. The mechanisms, the relationships, the patterns, the tension between sources. You want to see what each sources of knowledge, you want to see what they are seeing, you want to see what they are doing regarding this topic. And then the third part of critical thinking is your evaluation and your judgment. So what? Your reasoned judgment about what it all means. What does this all mean now? Now, you can see that critical thinking is not just you ruminating or exploring your own thoughts. It is exploring the thought of others. And how can you explore this thought of others is by looking at what they've written, looking at the studies, the papers that have been written about this particular topic. So now, how do you know? How do you know that this thing that you're looking at could help you in your writing? Am I still? I mean, my network is pretty shit. Can anyone see hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
All right. Thank you. So, let's explore at three different levels of what I've just talked about: description, analysis, and argument. These are the three things that we want to see how to convey this in writing. Description. The description of what you want to write, of you conveying your writing. When you describe, say I want to describe, several studies report a link between heavy social media use and anxiety in adolescents. That's a description. Several studies report a link between heavy social media use and anxiety in adolescents. I just described what I want to convey in my writing. Simply, I can speak to anybody, even a layman, and tell them several studies have reported a link between heavy social media use and anxiety in adolescents, and they will easily understand me. But then, can we just put this in a paper and just convey this to another person? I mean, they'll be asking the questions, what are the links? Where did you see the study? How do you know the social media use is heavy? How have you measured anxiety in adolescents? These are the questions you are going to be asked when you put this down in writing, in academic writing, in graduate writing, because you want to fully show how you've come to this conclusion, how you've come to this argument that you're conveying. So you move to the second phase, an analysis. So that's how I'm going to approach this analysis of this description. These studies converge on an association, but disagree on discretion. Most are cross-sectional, so it's unclear whether social media raises anxiety or anxiousness in teenagers. So me analyzing this line is that these studies that I've looked at, they've converged on an association. That means all of these studies have carried out research, they've done statistics, and they've seen an association. An association could be measured with Pearson's or parametric or non-parametric. So they've seen an association between these two things. They've seen it and they've converged in that direction, but they disagree on the direction of the association. Is it positive or is it negative? So most of these arguments are cross-sectional. Cross-sectional means that they are looking at this, they're looking at the study at a particular time. Say you want to do a cross-sectional research, means that you want to be looking at a particular population at a point in time. You're not going to be doing it longitudinally. Longitudinal means that you're looking at that population across time. So say you started with a group of 10-year-olds in, say, GSS1. A longitudinal research would be that I want to be looking at the 10-year-olds from GSS1. I'm looking at them from GSS2. I'll test for my hypothesis again. GSS3, I'll test for my hypothesis, or year by year. But cross-sectionally will mean that I'm looking at GSS1 students, GSS2 students, different people. GSS3 student, GSS4, SS1 student, SS2 and SS3. And then I'll compare and I'll see what I'm trying to test. That's the difference between cross-sectional and longitudinal. So what it would mean for me in this thing is that since there was no longitudinal research that was done, to say that there's a link between social media use and anxiety, because anxiety is not something that just comes one time and goes. Something that must have been there over time. So I don't say it's unclear whether social media use raises anxiety or anxious teenagers use it more. That is my analysis of this description. That's the analysis. Then what would be my argument? What am I going to be arguing? What am I going to be saying about this thing? Because I've seen that I can't really say, can't really be firm on the assertion that social media use will cause anxiety and addiction. Because the research that I've seen, they are not longitudinal. They don't observe the same population over time. They only observe multiple populations at different points in time. So what would my argument? My argument would be that because the strongest longitudinal evidence points to sleep displacement, rather than screen exposure as the main pathway. That means that when we look at longitudinal evidences, it points at sleep displacement, not really screen exposure. When we're talking about every social media use, there are multiple components to it. There is the biological, there is the social, and there is the psychological aspect of it. Psychological aspect of it would be that they'll start replicating what they've seen on social media and real life. Start replacing their identities, start replacing their beliefs, what they've seen on social media, the heaviness of it to start replacing what they think in their day-to-day life. That's psychologically. Biologically, what's happening? Their sleep becomes affected because they no longer sleep well because of heavy social media use. They now get tired eyes from looking at the screen for too long. And social aspect of it will be that they are now acting in ways that is not. Imagine somebody that is very, very active in USA TikTok now wants to start replicating what he sees on USA TikTok in Nigeria. I mean, they have different clients. So that is the social aspect of it. So I want to convey this in my argument that longitudinal evidence is pointing at sleep disturbance rather than screen exposure as the main pathway towards anxiety in adolescents. So my interventions would be that I should target when adolescents use their phones, not how much. Because you can't really control how much they use their phone, but you can target when they use it. If they use it at night, your intervention should be like, oh, you should stop using social media at night, they just sleep and they can pick it up the next day. So that the biological trait, biological link to anxiety is more attached to sleep displacement rather than screen exposure. That is my argument. I don't know if you are following me, but it just feels like as if and I mean, can anybody give me an example of the way I have conveyed this thing in this time now? Just give me an example, maybe from your own field, from your own discipline, something that you think that will be a description. Can anybody give me a description in their own field, and then we'll see how we can we can punch down at this description to see how to convey, to critically think about what we want to say, what we want to write about. Any descriptions? Just give me a topic, something you've seen, your hypothesis and observation, and then we'll do it together. We'll see how we can critically think about it. So anybody, just a description. You don't have to give me an analysis or an argument. Just a description. I can put this in the chat box and I can say it in text. Description. Anybody? Anybody? I'll start calling names. No, Choma, not a research topic. It's not a research topic. It could sound like a research topic. It could be an observation. Okay, say you want to write about something, your lecturer, okay, graduates now. You want to write about a topic. And then where does the topic come from? The scientific process now. Observation first, then hypothesis, then theory, experiment, and so on. That's scientific process. So where is your own coming from? Is it an observation? Is it from multiple writings? Is it okay, experience? Okay, give us something you've learned from experience, and then we'll try and see how we can build an argument that is fit enough for academic writing with this your experience. So just give us a description. Don't forget the 3 phases of critical thinking: description, analysis, and your argument. Description, analysis, and argument. How would you describe your experience? How would you describe it? This is an interactive class. It's not a class session. It's an interactive session. I don't want. You can see that I'm not coming with slides. There's no slides, so you have to actually be engaged in it. There's no slides. I don't want to come here and be giving you slides. Just everybody just be focused on the slide and be copying, because I don't know for you, but for me, when I see slides, I just write it down and I forget about it totally. But when in a conversation where I am particularly interested in what I'm hearing, what piques my interest, I remember it more than just writing down whatever I did slide. So that's why I prefer not doing slides. I don't think doing slides makes sense. Help it. So Chema says, I've learned how buildings are inaccessible in the University of Lagos, making it difficult for students with disabilities to attend classes. Very good. This is your description of the problem. You've learned that buildings, I'll not use learned, I've seen. Learned means that you've done some research, or there's a particular piece of writing you've read that has asserted this claim. So, okay, another observation from Martha. Martha said, despite Nigeria's active participation in international trade, the country's economic growth has not consistently reflected the expected benefit of increased trade. This observation raises question about the actual impact of international trade on Nigeria's economic growth. All right. So, Martha, you've gone through processes already now. You've gone from description to argument. Because your last sentence says that the observation raises question about the actual impact of international trade on Nigeria's economy. Okay. Let's be like that. Let's be like an observation. Let's be like a description. Now, how do we analyze these 2 things? We are going to be using the two examples that are from Martha and from Chioma as our case study. First one from Chioma. I've learned how buildings are inaccessible in the University of Lagos, making it difficult for students with disabilities to attend classes. How do we analyze this? We go back to our knowledge acquisition. You have to look at, say, have there been reports surrounding inaccessibility by people with disability in University of Lagos buildings? Have there been papers that have been published on it? In university, because you already picked out your population, you already picked out your place, population and place. These are some of the two very important things when doing research: the population and the place you are going to be doing. Because you can't move out of the place you're going to be doing research. Now, how what have you learned? What have you discovered by exploring this topic? You go back to knowledge acquisition. You look at papers, you look at studies, you look at um, written work surrounding this. That's our easiest find. That's our easiest find. You just sit down, look for papers, look for the studies, look for essays that have been written surrounding cases of inaccessibility with people with disabilities in the University of Lagos. Now, after you've done that, you are going to now build your case for and against. Is there actually inaccessibility for people with disabilities? Is there? What are the research? What is the research saying? Or is there not? You're already analyzing like that. What is the true form? What is the true form of the experiences of the people with disabilities when they are assessing building? From the research still. Now, if you don't find anything online, you don't see anything online from the research, now you go further. You have to carry out your own research. There are multiple types of research. There is meta-analysis. What you've just done now is called meta-analysis. You are analyzing what has been written before. You are compiling them into one or multiple arguments. Now, if you don't find anything there, that's we are leveling it up. We are pushing it up to another level. We conduct our own research. By how? Hold interviews. People with disabilities, speak to them about their inaccessibility to buildings. After you speak to them, compile your argument, your cases, their responses, compile them, theme them, put them into themes. This person said this. How many people have said this? How many people is saying this? How many people is saying that? So you've done that. You move your research further again. You go to maybe if they are inaccessible to you, the works department. I mean, there's always a works department in the school from Unilag too. So there's always a works department. You can go there and interview them about this inaccessibility when it comes to people with disabilities. You can interview them about what you think, how has University of Lagos accommodated people with disabilities into so that they can have as much accessibility as people that don't have disabilities. You have to take your research up a notch from there. So you do that, and after doing that, you now analyze. You now share them apart. You now spread it. What is research saying? Research that you've done from the meta-analysis, from looking at what every other person has written or said about this particular population in the University of Lagos, and then also from your own research, from your own reports, the interviews you did with
Sorry, guys. Hello. Can everybody hear me? Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the
Can you,
issue,
can you hear me now? Am I back?
yeah, yes, you're back, Tunde. Yes.
All right. So I don't know where I went off. So I was saying earlier that you don't want to be biased in your research, and that is constituting your the part of the analysis when it comes to academic writing. So now we're moving to our argument. What will now be our argument? Our argument is going to lean on where the evidence is, not where you want the evidence to be. Coming from the non-biased state that you had when doing your research, when analyzing what you've seen or what you've done, you want to now build all of those things into an argument. You want to ensure that your argument is coming from where the evidence is and not where you want the evidence to be. Now, where the evidence is, you now build your argument from that. Your meta-analysis, your interviews that you've done, your what else did we do? We did meta-analysis, we looked at other multiple sources the of information, looked at interviews from people with disabilities. Oh, ahead, interviews with the schools. So we want to ensure that our argument is coherent, not just over the place. We want to ensure that it's very strong. So if you don't see an argument, you dump it. If your argument is not coming together, there's no point putting up an argument that is not whole. I mean, it might not be perfect, but it must be strong in order to convey your thoughts properly. So that is how the that is how we're going to be looking at critical analysis when it comes to or critical thinking when it comes to academic writing. Um, can somebody drop in the chat box or in voice? What are the three? What are the three levels of putting up an of arranging our thoughts when it comes to academic writing? The three things. Can anybody hear me? Hey, am I not audible anymore?
You're audible, Tunde. I think so you said three things that yeah, I think yeah. Has anybody dropped anything on the group? Yes. Okay, Chioma Joan said critical thinking, paragraph,
Choma,
argument.
Choma, you're mixing it up. Choma, this is not what what comprises of critical thinking. Critical thinking in academic writing. What are the three things that comprises critical thinking in academic writing? Before you put anything down, before before you start writing, you want to build your argument. The three things leads to the argument. Argument is the last thing. And it's that argument that you now put in writing, maybe in a paper, maybe in this Word document or PDF. What are the three things that leads to it? Thank you very much, Chiwendu. Description, analysis, and not evaluation, but okay, I'll take evaluation. Okay, say evaluation. Evaluation is something that the argument. Description, analysis, and argument. Wow. Wow, you don't carry life. Yeah. Well, I'm going to have to go off video now. Is that okay, everyone? I don't. There's
Not a
nothing.
problem, sir.
Nigeria, Nigeria. Thank you so much. I'll be going on video. When they bring back the live, I'll come back on video. Thank
No
you.
problem, no problem. No problem, Tunde. That's fine.
All right. Martha, it's not that funny. It's not that funny. It happens everywhere. It happens to everybody.
Doesn't happen everywhere, though. It only happens in
Well, not
some
everywhere, but if you are
countries.
living in
Yes.
Nigeria, you must have experienced a bit of power outages. Even if
Yeah.
you have inverters, maybe you have inverters. Yeah. And you just saw start laughing at me. You don't do that. All right, let's move on, guys. Let's move on. Let's move on. So the second segment is paragraph architecture. We already have our arguments. We already have our what we want to see. You're not just writing from your imaginations. We know what we want to say now. So how do we really structure our arguments? How do we really structure our paragraph? We're going to call this paragraph architecture. How do we structure our paragraph? So,
Hello, Mr. Precious.
Hello, I thought it was from my end, but I don't think I can hear Sunday anymore. Is it
Yeah,
from my end?
likewise, I thought it was my end, but people were saying in the comment section that they couldn't hear anything too.
Okay, okay. Uh, let me just give him like some minutes. Let me reach out to see what's up. Yes.
Oh, okay.
I keep writing, and it might not be in an academic way, but there's a way we have to construct it and make sure it has evidence, and we put it in a way, structured in a way that is similar to an academic writing. So that's what I got for
Yeah,
before.
nice. Thank you so much. That was basically good too. Latsi, your hand, Raphael.
Yes, yes. So one thing I also learned is that AI hallucinate a lot. And so if you are not careful and then you use it, it will just conjecture citations and then give it to you in your write-ups. And so it is proper and better that anytime we are using AI in our academic writing, we should take our time and cross-check everything that it provides. And that assessors will actually not be happy when they see such errors where all the citations are fake and then they are not genuine. And so we should take good look at that while writing. Thank you.
Yeah, nice, nicely put together, Raphael. Yes. So we continue from where he stopped. Yes, so trying to okay. Sorry guys. From where he stopped. So he stopped at paragraph, current paragraph structure, right? Just to confirm, everybody can hear me loud and clear, right?
Yes, we
Check.
can.
Yes, so current paragraph structure. The new so yeah, you can to make a current paragraph, right? You know your essay, your academic writing now is an essay, right? But this time around, you're not just right. This is not an SOP or a personal statement. This is an academic statement that's supposed to be backed with evidence, right? So your SOP or your personal statement, you're trying to convince the admissions committee to not employ, right? Yeah, I mean, to admit you in their school, right? But some of the things you write there, you don't necessarily have to cite. I mean, if somebody says, if you say, yes, in the class I taught earlier, right? I was saying like how people's personal experiences can shape their trajectory, right? Uh, if you have, let's say something happened in your life 5 years ago, and that thing shaped and that thing made you change the particular opinion or perspective you had, right? Fine, your only evidence is just you saying it, you writing, oh, I had this experience. You're not going to go back and say, okay, what is that evidence? Then you get. But it might be okay, they might actually now see maybe through your is there anybody to back it up or any of that plan or any of that sort, right? But in an academic essay, you have to back up your points. You have to back, it's a writing, you're not just trying to convey your points across, but you're also backing up your points with evidence. Now, you understand? So there are two, you can either use two structures, which is one is the meal plan for the paragraphs, and one is the till plan structure, right? So the meal plan, so MEAL, right? So M stands for your main idea, your E stands for your evidence, your A stands for your analysis, and your L stands for your link, right? So it's just like, oh, for every paragraph you have, just to make sure that you are coherent and your essay is flowing structurally and there's synchronicity in it, right? So you can use the meal plan. Remember, main idea, evidence for E, analysis for A, and L for link, right? So your main idea, first start with your main idea. What is the topic sentence? What's that? The topic sentence outline the paragraph's core points, right? So in that paragraph, what exactly do you want to talk about? What is your main idea? It has to be very clear. You have to state it. You have to state your thesis immediately. So somebody that's reading that paragraph has to know, okay, this is what you are trying to say at that point in the first paragraph. Now, so rather in the first part of the paragraph, right? Then you go on to evidence, right? So Now you've talked about your topic sentence, you've outlined the core points, right? What are the things you use to back it up? For example, let's say I- I'm an economist, right? I studied economics. I'm also a management consultant. I'm interested in the idea of the Igbo apprenticeship system. And I go and say, okay, because growing up, I could see a lot of, I could see how that system transformed lives. I mean, you see men go to the village, right? And they bring those boys from the village and they put them in like an informal school, equip them with business acumen, beyond just the four walls of an institution. This will teach you, quote unquote, an MBA, things like marketing, networking, things like financial acumen, knowing, okay, this is how to price and things like that are things that are taught to these boys, right? You're thrown hands-on into the business rather than just reading theories and books, right? And I've seen, okay, I say, okay, I'm writing an essay on the Igbo apprenticeship system. And I say, okay, the Igbo apprenticeship system is a transformative system that has transformed Nigeria, right, economically, and especially for the southeastern part of Nigeria. That is the topic or the core paragraph in that, and the core point in my paragraph now. And somebody looks at it and says, okay, this is what you think. Is there an opinion, right? So now to now back my point and say, okay, what's the immense capability? I'm talking about like the transformative potential of the Igbo apprenticeship system, right? What are those points that can back it up, right? That's why I'm now saying, okay, well, this is the evidence. Say, was there anybody that has done a research on what the Igbo apprenticeship system, the power of the Igbo apprenticeship system, is there anybody that has done a research on the power of the Igbo apprenticeship system? Yes, okay. I can now quote, right? For example, well, you just put the system is this based on quote this person, put in quotes, or you cite this particular person or this particular paper that has made that evidence. So people that are reading it, especially because in academic essays, it's going to be appraised, right? People that are reading it, they're not just going to say, okay, this person's opinion. You have an opinion, right? But what are those backed core evidence-based data that you're using to now back up your points, right? So remember, you've done your main idea, you put the evidence. Now it's now time for the analysis, right? So you brought this evidence now, right? Now you now analyze the evidence, right? Sometimes your analysis could be to support the main idea. Usually that's what it's supposed to be, right? But there's to add nuances, right? In economics, I mean, not only in economics, but a lot of social science fields, right? You can also add the point of, okay, you know, right, that there are opposing opinions to your evidence, right? You can even bring that point out and also say, okay, I have this evidence, right? This is my analysis of this. I'm analyzing this evidence now that I have. But I'm sure, okay, this is where another the opposing person might argue for, right? You can do that, or you can just go straight to, okay, analyzing those evidence that support your points. It depends on you. Then you now link the last part of the paragraph will now be to link, right? So you're going to do that link is now to say, okay, we've talked about this. I've talked about the transformative potential of the Igbo apprenticeship system. Now I've given evidence to it. I've analyzed it, right? Now my last sentence or linking sentence would have to now be something that will now transition to the next paragraph and back my thesis. Understand? So that there is a flow. Okay, in the first part, I talked about the economic potential of the Igbo apprenticeship system, right? The next part, if I want to talk about the social apprenticeship system, I cannot just end it to this economic potential, right? I have to now make the readers aware that my next paragraph is going to be about the social potential, the social transformation that this Igbo apprenticeship system has done or has caused, right? Because sometimes readers don't usually have all the time to read your essay word for word, right? Sometimes they are skimming through. They say, okay, what's the first sentence of that paragraph? oh yeah, this is what this person is talking about. Oh, the topic of the sentence, right? The topic of the core message of the paragraph. Then they read, they might just say, scroll through the body. So yeah, there's some evidence. This is backing up here. Okay. And they scroll through the end. Okay. And then okay, this is what the second paragraph is going to be about. You understand? Now you can follow the meal plan, or you can follow that's an alternative plan or alternative structure, which is known as the TEAL structure. TEEL, right? So T stands for topic sentence, E stands for example, E stands for explanation, and L stands for linking sentence. So it's kind of similar. It serves as an alternative to the meal plan. So topic sentence, example, explanation, and linking sentence, right? So the same thing with the main idea in the meal plan. Topic sentence introduces that specific subject, what is the specific subject you're making in that paragraph? Do you get? E, right, is have you provide a specific example, a specific literature reference that actually backs your point. So it's literally seen as an evidence, right? Then E is explanation. So what is that example that you stated? What is the significance of it? Do you get what is the significance of the example you say? Okay, so you mentioned this example, you provided a literature reference of it, but what's that specific significance of the example that you mentioned? And you have to be very detailed about it. Then obviously the last part of the paragraph now links the sentence together, now summarize. Last part of every paragraph should not be disjointed. Your essay should flow flow logically, where the first paragraph, right, is leading into the second paragraph is leading to the third paragraph, and so on, where they are not just standalone paragraphs. They are like you're weaving that trend of synchronicity in all your paragraphs. Do you understand? Yeah, so how do you develop strong arguments, right? Where there's sometimes have you ever listened to something that so anybody, and this is going to be engaging now. This is going to be a question I'm going to throw to the class, right? Has there been any time that there are some opinions, right? I will need one or two people to speak on this. You've listened to somebody have and talk about an opinion you do not like, right? You do not like that opinion, right? But based on the person's idea, not just idea, but like based on the person's argument, you felt like you were being bought over. You did not like the opinion. You had a contradictory opinion, no, but you listen to this person's argument and you say, okay, this person's argument is actually logical and it's able to convince me. I don't want anybody to talk about a time that has happened, mentioning specific examples if they are willing to share. Because this leads us into the next conversation. So is there any time that an opinion of yours was challenged, that somebody was able to buy and win you over based on their arguments? Think, is there any time here at all? Really? So nobody here? Chioma, Raphael,
It has actually happened to me, but I'm trying to think of the scenario.
Okay. It doesn't have to be too deep. Think like any time that there's an opinion that you had, right? And when you were trying to I would say when you were arguing with somebody, and the person had a contradictory opinion as you, but you could see their points, and look, your perception or your opinion started to change based on their arguments. I feel like it's not possible. I put that in that all the opinions you've had, nobody has ever been able to convince you to change an ideology that you had. Like growing up, the ideology you had before is still the same ideology you have now.
No.
So, like, there should be instances where you've been able to be bought over. It cannot just be. It doesn't have to be an argument that is face to face. It can also be through books. you read a book that convinced you. That's what I'm trying to like. Anytime that you were convinced based on an argument, based on a like can be physical with communication. Communication could be oral, it could be written communication. And the point is, how do you think that writer or the speaker was able to convince you?
Okay, mine might not really be in the aspect of academics.
Yeah, it doesn't
more
have to be. So this stuff is not academic at all. This question now is not academic. Anything, it could be, oh, you did not like this particular person in your school, and somebody was now telling you all the good things about this person, and you're like, you can see that maybe my hatred for this person doesn't hold water. Do you understand? That made you now challenge. Doesn't have to be academic, very personal. It can even be trivial things, right? So trivial things rather. Say it. Yes, this is what the
okay.
yes.
While growing up, I grew up in a Christian home, like staunch Christian home.
Yes.
So I had this ideology that wearing trousers is a no-no for me. And I was
Yes.
actually like, I stick to it. But when I got to the university, I had this friend. She the way she explained it, like the way she calmed down to explain it, it's not that it's bad, but there are reasons why those who do it. And she pointed it out. It might be because of the weather condition, it might be because of where they grew up. Like she gave me detailed explanation that made me had a rethink about the ideology I grew up with. And I actually saw sense in what she was saying. And I had to change that my way of thinking. I don't know if it fits into what you're asking.
It fits into because you even went above and beyond, and you even stated, you said she was able to give you examples. She cited things. She didn't just say, "Oh, this is my opinion," and "Oh, this is that," right? But she was able to give you reasons why she thinks that this is a valid or not a valid opinion in this instance, now, and why you should see it from this way. She gave you examples, and I'm sure the examples she gave you are not um opinion-based examples. She was able to convince you based on, let's say she gave you data. Maybe I don't know if she was able to show you a Bible verse. I don't know how that experience went. Was she able to show you maybe a Bible verse or a verse that kind of challenged your own point of view? You think that
Yeah,
happened?
she did
So,
with other
so that yeah.
instances too.
So she gave you an instance. She cited a source that was able to make you challenge your point. If she was just saying, "Oh, I believe that you should you saying that wearing trousers is bad as a Christian woman," and if she's just arguing that, "Oh, it's good," but yes, you're not still going to be convinced because human beings. Let's be honest. Opinions, when we grew up with certain fixed opinion, hardcore opinions, that's very hard for us. I know we are kind of deviating. That's very hard for us to change, right? Unless there is something that challenges, and usually we like to see evidence. Something that challenges that bias, that evidence to be core evidence. I'm not saying, okay, maybe I can rethink. You don't necessarily have to buy it fully, but it will challenge you to actually go back and rethink your stance on that. Do you understand? So that was very nice, Chidima. So is there any other person here before we move on? Any other person that has had a rethink of opinions based on a verbal communication or written communication?
Hello, Precious.
Yes, Lati, you can go on.
Yes.
Yes.
So growing up, when we were very, very young,
Yes.
we realized that some of our colleagues during our lower primary time had issue with letters and then reading. They
Yeah.
tend to see things differently. In fact, when you
Yeah.
ask them to write the first 5 English alphabets, they'll be writing it some way, like kind of reverse form. So it was until recently that I got to hear of dyslexia, and then
Yes.
I got more info about how students see things differently and how they have different way of learning, and that if instructors target these students and then change their learning, the way they teach them, they could become good like normal students, because we used to laugh at them and think that they are just not
Yes.
good for this academic journey. they are dumb and then all that. And even with the dyslexia engagement, you got to know that even big people who have made great impact in the world were once dyslexic and then all that. So it really transformed my way of thinking, and then I think I should put this across.
Yes. So, Lati, what would you say exactly based on that perspective? What would you say was the thing that made you try to change, or that brought you over to understanding dyslexia is not just fake, but actually a real condition? You
Yes.
know?
So um, even with this, there is one student that we used to laugh at the most, and then uh, he left our school around primary 4, and currently he has completed university, and then he's also doing well in life. He's currently employed. In fact, at that young stage, we were thinking that he cannot make it in life, and that
Mhm.
he's just dumb. He's having no future and then all that. But some way somehow, when he left our school, he got some great support from a teacher who noticed him, and then it really helped. So having gone through this dyslexia fellowship and then lesson recently, that is when it dawned on me that not all students who show this difficulty at early stage are actually dumb. They just need some targeted form of instruction and then assistance, and they'll do well. And so what it has taught me is that it's not proper, it's not wise for me to run everyone down because of one or two problems that they are encountering, especially at their early stage. It is better we take our time, listen to them or watch them closely, identify their problem, and see how we can help them as instructors. I'm a teacher, so I'm speaking from that aspect of the teachers and then how we can help these students.
Lovely. Now, so you see, so that moves us to brings us to the power of persuasion, right? As a human being, right, what we argue, argument doesn't necessarily have to be you're fighting, you're screaming, you're shouting, but how are you able to make your point coherently where you're able to win somebody over? And if you don't have that power of persuasion, either through speaking or writing, you're not going to win somebody. Your essay, you're not writing an essay for writing sake, for it to just sit down in a folder in your laptop or whatever in a journal. You're writing an essay so that it's either to educate, to pass across an information, to convince, mostly to convince. And even if you're educating, it's also to convince, because if you're educating me, I have to buy in what you're saying to also learn it, you understand? So how do you now develop strong arguments, right? So at the graduate level, right, where we are, right, where this class is sent out on graduate level, right? So summarizing information is insufficient. You're not just going to be you've read this 500 words article, or let's say 10,000 words article, right? And you're not going to be summarizing what the article has said. No, it's going to be you've this summary now you've gotten from this argument. What's the major comprehension you've gotten? What can you make well-informed arguments based on that article that you've read, right? So an argument that is literal, that is robust, right, or I would say an argument that holds water. Do you understand? An argument that contains the following: claim, evidence, and warrant. So your argument must have claim, evidence, and warrants. Do you understand? So no matter how bad your claim could be, let me use this claim now, for example, we can use something that is is everly a controversial opinion, right? In terms of like rights, women's rights, right? There are some people that believe, oh, feminism, right, is not or ruins society. And some people that believe feminism shapes society or feminism transforms society. So now that those two things now are your claim, right? You're trying to make somebody either from in one end, you're trying to make somebody to see, oh, does feminism ruin society or does feminism shape society? This is not an argument of whether it is bad or wrong, right? You're trying to make people to see either of your claim, right? Either of your or you're trying to make people see your point, right? So I'm using two extreme points now, right? So this is your claim. Feminism is bad, feminism is good. Different claims. These are two separate claims now. So if you're making an argument for your claim that feminism is good, right? What are you going to use to convince the reader that, oh, yes, feminism is good, though? And they're only going to be convinced if they've seen evidence, logical evidence, right? That's backed by data. This is not okay based on my opinion. Because most of the time, when I see arguments on issues like this, on rights issues, raise, oh, based on my opinion, this is my opinion. Academic writing doesn't, just for lack of better words, academic writing doesn't give an F about your opinion, right? What they are looking for, what people are looking for is the evidence that backs that opinion. You have an opinion. You must be able to back it based on evidence. And your evidence is not just, oh, you go and look for one journal that nobody has peer reviewed. It has to be backed by data. People have done primary data, they've gone to go and do research on that to back your claim, right? It has to be peer reviewed journal, right? Do you understand? That's why people always, there's an argument of science and religion, right? Because, oh, one, you have to, it's majorly opinionated. The other one is based on science, on evidence. Do you understand? But that's besides the point, right? So you've made a claim, feminism is good, or and these are just examples, or feminism is bad. Your evidence now should show why feminism is good or why feminism is bad, right? So now the final one is a warrant, a logical warrant, right? So what is that underlying reasoning that you're connecting your evidence to back your claim? You get? So how are you going to link your claim and your evidence together? That's your warrant, right? What is the connection between your evidence and your claim, right? How are you this, and that is how you are going to be able to win them over. Do you understand? And citing the example that Chidinma said, right, where she said that she grew up in a very conservative Christian home, and she had this opinion or perception that Christian women should not wear trousers, right? And she had a conversation with somebody, or quote unquote, an argument. And by the way, arguments, I feel like we always use arguments, where there was a buzz boost, whether everybody here knows what buzz boost is, right? But it could also be there's a back and forth trying to exchange ideas, right? Just person see your points, right? That's an argument, a debate, an argument, whatever. You understand? And the person probably showed her examples. Okay, this is what I feel like. This is not what I feel like, but this is what the Bible says. That's an argument that was able to win Chidinma, right? And you know the funny thing, the life is so funny, right? Or so beautiful that doesn't necessarily mean that she's right to the person that's actually making the argument, right? To convince Chidinma that Christian women should wear trousers. But she was able to back up her argument with evidence, right? There might be somebody that will also bring this from the same Bible, bring verses and scriptures that actually affirms Chidinma's bias or Chidinma's opinion now in this case, right? So, but because somebody has brought an evidence that shows Chidinma that, oh, this opinion you have might not necessarily be like this, right? That is how you always have to provide evidence. So there's a claim, make your claim, good, bad, or whatever. And but I feel we should stop. Make your claim simply, right? So what is that central assertion you're trying to make? And I've given certain examples. And if you're making your claim, what is that evidence? What is that substantial not just evidence, you're substantiating that evidence with data and literature to prove the claim. Then you're wrapping it up with like a logical warrants, right? To connect evidence back to your claim. Right. So based on this now, I would want somebody, right, to maybe think about like a thought. This is just, I think this is the final stuff we are going to do. Then we'll now talk about referencing styles, right? Somebody here, right, should give what is one claim that you hold dearly to, right? And how do you think you'll be able to convince another person that doesn't, or another person to buy that claim that you hold dearly, or that opinion that you hold dearly. And I think everybody should have an opinion, and I'm going to call somebody at random. There's no how nobody here has an opinion on something. And remember, I don't necessarily do good or bad when I'm teaching, right? This is an opinion, right? So it's just trying to say, okay, how are you going to convince another person to buy that opinion? So I'll be calling on Dorcas Akonde, please. Dorcas. Dorcas, if you can hear me. Yes, go on. Yeah, Dorcas. I think you're trying to speak. If you're trying to speak, your mic is
Hello?
Hello, yes, Dorcas, go on.
Please, I did not really get what you asked.
So the point is now, what is one opinion that you have? And how would you convince, using this structure now of persuasion, how would you convince, and you must give specific, it doesn't have to be specific literature, but obviously you cannot be doing literature review now. But how would you convince another person to buy that opinion you have?
Okay, I think if I want to convince someone about my own opinion, I have to back it up with maybe
No, you
examples
have to
and
state it. Wait, Dorcas, so now the thing now, the task here now is you have to mention the specific opinion. You have to state that opinion. Yes. So let's go.
okay, maybe let me say if my opinion is like maybe writing journal articles, or like okay, if you should not like okay, if I want to have an opinion about okay, this is argumentative essay, this is how it should be, and maybe the person I'm trying to say that opinion to did not have better understanding about argumentative essay or narrative essay, so I should be able to back it up with a lot of examples, a lot of sources for better clarification, so that at the end of my point, the person will be able to know that, okay, truly, this is the difference between argumentative essay and narrative essay, and the person will be able to be convinced at the end of my discussion. I think.
Yes, I get you, Dorcas, right? But I said you have to mention your specific. I give a lot of examples now. So examples, we've listed a lot of examples. Or for example, now old Chidima, her claim would be Christian women should not wear trousers. New Chidima now that she has been convinced might be okay. Christian women can be allowed to wear trousers. Those are specific claims. You have to be there's an opinion that you have, right? Whatever the opinion is, it doesn't have to be academically centered, but there's an opinion you have. We have discussions on as human beings, we are very opinionated. We have different opinions, different biases, right? So now you have one opinion. What is that opinion, and how are you going to convince another person to buy that opinion based on the academic formats? Do you get? Or does anybody here want to help Dorcas? Or no help Dorcas, I see, but like, okay, Chidima, your hand is raised. Go on.
Hello.
Okay, yes. I did my NYSC in Kano State,
Yes.
and I thought so. I mostly had male students instead of female students. So
Okay.
my opinion is the importance of education for a girl child. And
Okay.
if I'm to give evidence or back up my claim, I will try to draw their attention to the fact that, in fact, girls or ladies, when they are in key positions, they tend to help out more. Okay, for instance, you don't want your girl child to be trained, but say you're sick and your girl child eventually gets trained and becomes a medical doctor, it makes it easy for you to get treated. And these are some examples and citations I will give. Then, if it's based on writing, I can still source out evidence to back it up to prove that education
So
for a
now
girl child is important.
mhm. Your claim here now is you're not very specific with your claim. That's why I say like that's what this challenge now, this tax actually challenges us literally, right? So your claim now is education is good for the girl child. You said the importance of education for the girl child, and that it could be right. So your claim you have to be very specific. Your claim is education is good for the girl child, right? Based on your experience in Kano, you saw this, right? That's a
Yeah.
claim that anybody that reads, right? It doesn't have to be that, oh, education is good for the girl child or whatever, but you saying the importance of education for the girl child is not a specific claim. Do you understand? So you can say, okay, education is good for the
Okay.
girl child, and you're in your story, you can now talk about the importance of education to the girl child, if that makes any sense. So you are talking about claim here. Make your claim very specific. You understand? So now on that, let's see, Raphael. That was a good one. Thank you, Chidinma. Raphael.
Yes, yes, precious. So the claim that I hold dear to myself is that as African countries, democracy is not good for us. We
Okay.
we
Mhm.
we are better off when we have military rule, because the democratic leaders will come, but in the name of democracy, they tend to do more harm than what it was intended to do. They will steal, and then uh, when they are caught and they are sent to the law court, they find a way to defend themselves. But countries that once practice something like military rule, or maybe one leader kind of system, like Libya, like this, when they were having Gaddafi, they used to be doing very, very well until some way, somehow, Gaddafi was taken off, and then Libya is now some country that I can't even talk of. They are just going backwards. When you look at Burkina Faso, their current military leader now is doing very, very well, and the country is moving in a direction that most of the people in the country think it has never been before, and that this is a milestone, this is a great achievement, and that their military leader is doing very well. But when they were having that democratic system, the country was being controlled. So my claim is that as African countries, democracy is not good for us. Military rule is the best, and these are the examples I can give.
So like that's nice. Yeah. So that's nice, Raphael, right? So your claim was very specific, right? But then, right, your claim was very specific. Democracy is not good for African countries, right? Military rule is better. That's a very specific claim. But in your again, obviously, you cannot cite research. I mean, the point here, you're writing an academic essay. The
Mm.
point is to convince your readers, right? So yes, all these things you stated, right? It felt like opinions. Oh, this and that, right? But did you mention that you would be able to cite a particular claim to back up your evidence? Because you can be telling me, oh, military rule is good, right? Okay, and so what? You've written all these things, military rule, praising military rule and what, but what is the research that has been done to show that military rule is good that backs up your claim? If not, I'll just reading it like a narrative essay or an opinionated blog, right? It doesn't hold weight. It's an opinion. Anybody can write an opinion based on military rule, and then the military rule is better than democracy rule. Anybody can write an opinion on that, but what makes it stand out is your evidence, that evidence that you backed up. You read literature, you backed up your evidence based on what has been done, research that has been done before. That's what it differentiates. So that was a good claim, right? But sometimes we should try to differentiate evidence, right? Obviously, you cannot come and start citing all the evidence here, but I would have loved where if you had mentioned, remember, you're trying to convince me, right? I said you should act like you're trying to convince somebody. I'd have loved, okay, you mentioned, okay, based on this is my opinion of this, right? Yes, I would have cited peer-reviewed journals that proves this particular point. Do you understand? So that's it. Nice one, Raphael. Does anybody have does anyone participate in the challenge before we move on to final phase of this class? No one? Okay. Yeah, okay. So moving on to credible evidence, right? So how do you know if an evidence is credible? Again, people are because you saw an evidence in a journal doesn't necessarily mean it is credible. Do you understand? So your evidence has to be 100% peer reviewed, and peer reviewed means it's not just the person making an opinion, right? There are scholars in that field that have read that paper and they approve the evidence or the thesis. It's not just, oh, I have an opinion, or somebody just, sometimes you see a lot of journals, not journal, but a lot of research papers, they're not peer reviewed. You understand? But how do you know if research is peer reviewed? If it's most likely in a reputable journal, it is peer reviewed, right? So if you're looking for evidence, you have to use the following, there's a mnemonic for it. So it's called the CRAP test, right? So CRAAP, right? So you have to check currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose. Currency, you have to ask yourself, is this information up to date, right? I remember when I was doing my undergraduate project, and my supervisor would say, try as much as possible to use papers that have been published in the last 5 years. If you're going to go further, maybe try papers 5 to 10 years, but do not go beyond that. Because as humans, our opinions, the evidence that is brought up, right, sometimes changes. And 10 years, more than 10 years is enough for new evidence to be brought up about a particular claim, right? So if you're going to cite or back up your claim, you have to look at the journal now, the paper, right, that has been published. What year was it published? So what year was it published? Look at the year. What is that? Is it up to date in the field? Do you understand? And up to date in the field can be, what's the word to use? It can vary based on the field, right? So for economics, because it's a social science, transformation of policies or transformation of change, right, doesn't just happen in the instance. Do you understand? So 5 to 10 years is actually enough, all right, for a transformation to occur. But if you're saying things like AI, you're writing a paper on AI, you cannot be using you cannot be using evidence or research paper that was written 5 years ago, because AI is the transformation tech is actually very fast changing, right? So it has to be up to date with the field. Look at the rapidity or how fast information changes in that particular field, right? Currency, right? So relevance, does it directly support your thesis? You're making a point on military rule is better than democracy, right? And you're talking about what other rules do we have in politics? Funny thing, I did political science in year one, but what other forms of government? We have, okay, maybe gerontocracy, we have
Autocracy.
Autocracy and the rest, right?
Yeah.
So, you now start talking about autocracy, gerontocracy, and I'm like, okay, why are you citing this? Is it relevant? Your reader will be like, is it relevant to your topic, right? So your citation should be relevant. Next one is authority, right? Again, that is why you have to use peer-reviewed journals. Don't just put any chaff as them chaff journal in just cite any chaff journal you find online. But are there reputable scholars that have said that in that domain, and has it been peer reviewed, right? Next one is accuracy. Is it data empirically sound and verifiable, right? And this this is kind of like, because it can be half and half, because sometimes some fields, my field in economics is mathematical. I mean, it's quantitative, but it's funny that economics is a social science, right? But it's one of the most quantitative social sciences, unlike say sociology that or even political science too. To understand? But we try to quantify things using scientific approach, right? I This is an opinion now, an opinion of mine. I feel like sometimes it does so much harm to the economics discipline, but this is an opinion, right? So pretty much accuracy. Before I deviate now, sometimes my brain is this data empirically sound and verifiable. You have to ask yourself before you are citing that paper, right? Purpose, the last one. Is the source objective, or does it contain bias, right? And this one too, I'll argue it in terms of like how I feel like every argument that we make, whether good, whether positive, whether trying to change an opinion, is kind of underlaced in our personal biases. True. What matters is how well we're able to use evidence to try to shift people to our own personal bias. Do you understand? So your source, right? It has to be, even though you might have a bias, so, but it has to be objective as possible, right? Where there is no misinterpretation of any, there's no subjectivity of, oh, yeah, you might be biased in writing this stuff, but that source you're using, that evidence you're using, it has to be as objective as possible. Do you understand? So now, what are the referencing styles, common referencing styles? And this is the end of end of this class before we go to question and answer. Common referencing styles include APA citation formats, right? And this is like, it's going to be for a classwork. Right? I'm going to give a classwork. I'll type it on the group chat, right? So APA citation, mostly used in social sciences. As an economics student, I'm not a student anymore, but I feel like I'm everly an economics student, because economics ties into different aspects of life. Every aspect of decision making ties into economics, right? So I'm everly still learning, right? So social science education, we use social sciences and education, for example, APA citation format is used. And I think APA means American Psychological Association, so right. And there's another style called MLA, is mostly used in humanities and literature. And there's another one called Chicago, it's mostly used in history and fine arts. And another one called Harvard citation format, mostly used in business, right? So you have to look at your discipline and say, okay, what are the referencing styles that your discipline allows, right? And referencing styles include in-text citation and reference list, right? So even though I'll type, Chidima, please pay attention, because you'll be helping me type out this question, this assignment to the group chats for the participants of the graduate school studies, right? So identify, right? The assignment is identify or state your discipline, your current discipline, right? And write based on an opinion. So identify your current discipline, right? based on an opinion that you have, write a 500 to 1,000 words academic essay on an opinion, on an opinion that you have. This is going to be, so it's open-ended. So you have an opinion. So it could be an opinion as, oh, I love rice better than beans, or I love rice more than beans, or rice is better than beans. It could be anything. This is an open, so it's just to see how you can make this quote unquote mundane opinions that you have, how you can transform it to academic essays using what has been taught here. Do you understand? So, but remember your citation. So in the end, when you're submitting your work, you have to state your name, right? Discipline, state it there. Social sciences, or humanities, or literature, or history, finance, or whatever your discipline is, right? And when I'm reading your essay, what I'm going to be identifying, right, is seeing how you are using the referencing style that is allowed, or that is conventional in your discipline, to make, or to make citations or references in your essay. So is this clear, or does anybody want me to go over this? So is everything clear? Because sometimes it might not, the point might not be clear. So if it's clear, please signify that it's clear. Thumbs up, drop an emoji, let me know that there's no need to reiterate this assignment.
Sorry, Precious. If you can just go over it one more time.
Okay, no problem. So the point of this essay now, right, is an academic essay, right? The question is just pretty much make an argument on an opinion that you hold dearly, 500 to 1,000 words. The opinion could be anything you want to think about, right? I've always mentioned something that I like rice better than beans. No, I think I like rice better than beans, right? It seems okay, it's opinionated. You say beans is better because you are trying to make it claim, right? So your opinion, right, has to be an opinion that it can be challenged, right? So your task now is to write this 500, defend this 500, or make an argument in the 500 to 1,000 words essay, right, on that opinion, right? And you're going to write that essay in an academic format, right? So it's not a narrative essay. I don't want to know, oh, you liked rice, or you think rice is better than beans because you ate rice throughout your time when you were growing up, right? It has to be an academic essay. So cite, give references. At the end of your paper, drop a reference list, use in-text citation. The twist here now is every one of you has to state your discipline, right? And your citation format should be based on your discipline. Do you get? Your citation format should be based on your discipline. Is that clear? Right, so 500 to 1,000 words, write it, and your citation format should be based on it. So this now challenges everybody to go and read up what their citation format is and how you cite based on your discipline. In text, because there's also in-text citation where you are citing in that text, right, in your body of work, your paragraphs. You see, let's say you see rice is better than beans now, and you now say, okay, rice better than beans because rice has, this is just random, rice has more carbohydrates, and carbohydrates is a good source of energy, right? You now quote this person that cited it, that's an in-text citation. But at the end of your citation, or at the end of your essay, there has to be a reference list. And each of these referencing styles, based on disciplines, each of these disciplines have different referencing styles that is allowed or is conventional. Right? So that's the challenge for everybody here. So Chidima, before you send it to the group, just to make sure that it is clear, right? Just send me the question, right? I will not say, okay, I will give you the go ahead to forward it to me. Exactly. I say
Yeah,
yes.
yes.
Yeah, so this open the floor for question and answer. And by the way, Tunde said we're going to also send you your stuff. It's like handout for this class. Right, so yeah, Chidima, you have a question. Who else? Chidima and Ugoma. So because Chidima went last, Ugoma, yeah, your question. Unmute yourself and speak. Ugoma Okore.
Okay, good afternoon.
Good
So my
afternoon.
question is about this essay, like
Okay.
our opinions, you said that the opinion we hold dearly. So must our opinions, like when we're defending the opinion, must
Mhm.
the defense be absolute? Like must it be I agree with this? Can there be some kind of concession? Like you gave an example of rice is better than beans. Can there be some kind
Yeah.
of concession? Let's say that you mostly agree, but you can say, however, rice and beans is better than only rice. Can it?
So
Can you? Must it be
that's
like
the
an
point.
absolute
So
opinion?
yes, your opinion, your claim has to be absolute. You're not arguing from both sides because in an academic essay, you're making if I'm reading an essay now, right? And how are you going to convince me if you're arguing from both mouths? Or I'm reading an essay, Raphael stated something about military democracy better than is better than military rule. No, military rule is better than democracy. And I'm reading his paper and I'm seeing him supporting military rule and democracy together. How am I going to be convinced that am I going to be convinced to buy his own point that military rule is better than democracy for Africa or for African countries? Right. So in your essay, it's not this is not even about the assignment now. This is like a general thing that it's better, it's safer for you to have a strong consensus on your claim. Your claim has to be absolute and you have to back it up with evidence for if you're making an argument in academic writing. You understand? Don't argue from both sides. You can argue from you can say, okay, yes, I believe this, right? You can also come from an angle of say I can see where the other person is coming from, and I can see that this is the challenge. This, that stuff. I don't know if everybody did it in secondary school, right? In debate, I was in debate class, or not debate, debate team. I would argue, let's say they say math is better than English. We used to argue very random, weird stuff in secondary school. Math is better than English, right? And you say, okay, opposing team or supporting team, right? And the supporting team person that people that support math is better than English, right? They'll come with their arguments and whatnot. There's also sometimes people actually say, this is my argument. However, I believe this is the argument the people that support English they will come from. They challenge the argument. So it's possible for you to challenge the argument another person has. And for you to challenge the argument, you obviously state their own claim too. But you're very clear that you're not supporting their claim. You're saying, I can see where they are coming from and I am attacking it. So you can attack in your argument, not support the other party. So it's like you have to be very careful. You have to be the reader has to be sure of what you are saying, right, in an argument or in an academic essay. Do you understand? Just try to remove perhaps speaking from two sides of your mouth, right? Because again, how are you going to win me if your essay is you're speaking from two sides pretty much. As Olade said, must our opinion be based on our discipline? No, your opinion must not be based on your discipline in this assignment now, right? Uh, your opinion can be on anything. Again, it's an opinion. It can be very professional, it cannot be professional, it can be personal. The only thing now is that when you are citing, your citation has to be based on your discipline. And to help the reviewer, you have to include your name, this is your discipline, social sciences, arts, humanities, whatever. So that will now guide what citation format the person that is reviewing is going to critique your essay based on, right? Referencing styles, there are different referencing styles, right? So the opinion is dependent on whatever you say it is, right? but your citation format or your referencing style has to be based on your discipline for this task. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Does anybody have any other question? Chidima, did I answer your hand is still up. Chidima, did I answer your question? Well, thank you so much.
Okay, mine is not actually a question per se. I just wanted to see if you can go through the references style again. I wasn't able to get all of them.
So that's the see, it's not possible to teach you everything in 2 hours, right? I've given you
No, it's
reference.
not
There are
not in detail. Sorry, like there was a way you said it that I understood.
okay,
Like you said,
so
APA citation is just for social science. Like you just mentioned it like that.
APA citation, right? Mostly
Yes.
common disciplines that use APA citation, social sciences, education, right? There's also
Okay.
MLA citation. Common
Humanities and
disciplines that use it are humanities, literature. There's Chicago citation, right? So Chicago format. Common disciplines that use it, history, fine arts, and there's Harvard, mostly Harvard Business School, right? Format of citation. Common disciplines that use it is business and whatever. If you're going to UK, US university. So your assignment now is to obviously read up on what all these citation referencing styles are, right? And okay, you can quickly briefly read up on what each of them is, right? But your task now is you should now focus on your discipline and say, okay, try to understand what is that citation format that is used for your specific discipline. Is that clear?
yeah, it's very clear. Thank you.
You're welcome. I think somebody has a question in the. Okay, that's not a question. Okay. I think yes. So Arama just literally exemplified or summarized the assignment for everybody. Remember, Chidima, you drop it on the group chat. Now, question and answer. This you've been doing question and answer, but like this is based on the assignment now. It's based on the topic that has been taught. Does anybody have any question? The question and answer based on the topic that has been taught now with the class. So if you have a question, raise your hand or drop your question in the comments. So based on even what Tunde also, because I know he started, right? So based on what he said, right, his own point too, and mine also. Do you understand? So questions are people done with so I'm asking your question. You only care about the assignments. Or you want to say people understood everything clearly, right? There's nothing I can say that would convince you to, okay, that will add a new perspective to how you're going to tackle your assignments or your learning. This is the opportunity to ask. Okay, I'm impressed. I mean, so you're saying all of you understood the context of the assignments. Yes, yes. The videos obviously will drop in soon. Yes. So in the light of no questions, I'll be stopping the recording now. Then we'll go to I will go to the thank you. Yeah, I enjoyed the class and the examples given. Thank you, Rama. So we're going to the election of the class rep for the assistant class rep since we have a class rep. Okay.